Israeli airstrikes on the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip began after the militant group fired 7 rockets at Jerusalem and dozens more at southern Israel. At least 20 people are believed to have been killed in the Israeli offensive, including 9 children and a senior Hamas commander. An Israeli army spokesperson said it's made preparations for further high-intensity attacks, adding that Hamas would get the message. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that the hostilities could drag on, despite calls for calm from the international community.
This evening, on Jerusalem Day, the terrorist organizations in Gaza have crossed a red line and attacked us with missiles in the outskirts of the city. Israel will respond with great force. We will not tolerate attacks on our territory, on our capital, on our citizens, and on our soldiers.
The current violence has been triggered by unrest at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, a holy place for both Muslims and Jews.
Needless to say, we're very focused on the situation in Israel, West Bank, Gaza. Very deeply concerned about the rocket attacks that we are seeing now that need to stop and need to stop immediately. And also, of course, concerns about the violence, provocative actions in and around the Haram al-Sharif, Temple Mount. That violence needs to cease. All sides need to de-escalate, reduce tensions, take practical steps to calm things down.
The month of Ramadan tends to be a time of heightened tensions, but this has been fueled by the planned eviction of dozens of Palestinian families from a neighborhood of East Jerusalem. The United Nations, Egypt and Qatar, which frequently mediate between Israel and Hamas, are all reportedly trying to halt the fighting.
I think we have to be very careful with our language. This is not an escalation of violence. This is basically Israel repressing Palestinian resistance, Palestinian demonstrations to ongoing ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem. And these protests and demonstrations are taking place across Palestine and are mostly youth-led, and they have been inspired by the steadfastness and the resistance of Palestinians in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood of East Jerusalem, which, as your report mentioned, is facing eviction by the Israeli regime. And so this has been an ongoing process of ethnic cleansing, and Palestinians have been responding to this, and they've been inspired by each other to have the courage to resist the Israeli regime.
Well, let's speak now to Nimrod Novik from the Israel Policy Forum. He was an advisor to the late Prime Minister and President Shimon Peres, and he joins us now from Israel. You've talked about Israel's illusions, especially concerning East Jerusalem. What do you mean, and is there any sign that the government is taking that sort of message on board?
I don't expect the outgoing government, and I hope it is outgoing, to make dramatic changes in national strategy. I do expect the next government, assuming it is the one that is emerging, and nothing is guaranteed until it happens. But if there is a next government, I expect a better hearing to the advocacy of Commanders for Israel's security to change the strategy on 3 counts. 1, you cannot insulate what happens in Jerusalem from what happens in the West Bank and Gaza. 2, you cannot separate the West Bank and Gaza and hope to have a stable situation. And 3, you must strengthen the moderates rather than the extremists on the other side. And that is to work very, very closely with the Palestinian Authority and its elected leadership, President Abu Mazen, in order to change dynamics on the ground, create new hope, create political horizon of a 2-state solution, and start working on getting there.
And just a word about US policy. You've said that President Biden has no choice now but to get involved. What can the US and, for that matter, the EU do about the situation?
To be precise, I didn't say that he didn't have a choice. I said that they correctly identified our area as a lower priority, given their other domestic and international agenda. That's legitimate, and of course, that's correct. However, Low priority doesn't look nice, as we can see on your screen now, on the split screen, which means the administration tended to walk away only to find itself spending the entire weekend at the highest level of the administration trying to sort out the mess that we, sons of Abraham, created when the
Nimrod
baby
Novak.
walked away. So I think we are likely to see a more robust American involvement, not at the highest level, but at the diplomatic level of the administration.